That wasn't supposed to be the song, but it's okay. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Cover Your Balls. I'm Jordan McKelley. That's Mitch Balla. And if you're not out there and you're not covering up your balls right now, you're probably going to get a disorderly conduct. So I'd cover those up, and we're going to go ahead and cover your sports balls. Welcome to our pilot episode. We're really excited. Each episode, we're going to run through about 4 or 5 segments. We're going to have a news headline. And right now, to start every show, we're going to have a top 4 at 4, where it's the top best of something of 4. Either sports-related or, Mitch, non-sports related. So let's get into the first top 4 at 4. Mitch, what were the top 4 best sports moments of the pandemic 2020 season?
So that meaning after March 12th, when everything got shut down because Rudy Gobert got COVID.
Yes, sir.
Idiot. But okay. So we're going to start at the bottom of my list. Number 4. Of the top 4 sports events that happened was the Cavaliers season ending, because I didn't have to watch any more piss poor basketball of my favorite team.
That's fair.
And I was really happy about that. So let's move on to something better now. Number 3, LeBron got his 4th ring. Lakers win the ship in the bubble. Most difficult ring besides Game 7 of the 16 finals, as we all know. Cementing his legacy, and he'll still get like 3 more. Number 2 is the greatest baseball player on the Cleveland Indians, Jose Ramirez, hitting a walk-off home run to clinch a playoff berth. He is the best player on the Indians. He will not be traded because the second best player on the team is going to get traded, but that'll be another episode. And number 1 is the Cleveland Browns are good at football, I think.
I think too.
That's my best moment so far. It's probably going to be that way until they disappoint us per usual, but that is my top 4 sports events of the COVID era.
Would you like to hear my top 4?
I would love to hear.
Because this is a big deal. At number 4, I have the Houston Astros. What I love about the Houston Astros is that they cheated. And not only did they cheat, they got away with it. They still have their trophy, and this baseball season was supposed to be the season that we shamed the Houston Astros every game, that we threw at every one of their pitchers, but here comes, as Dave Chappelle says, the Chinese virus, and it made everybody forget that the Houston Astros cheated. And not only did they cheat, get away with it, and we weren't able to do anything about it. They almost ended up making it back to the World Series in like a really sneaky manner in an abbreviated baseball season. So that's what I have at number 4. At number 3, like you, I have the Cleveland Browns. Now, there's been 2 winning seasons in the last 2 decades ever since the team came back to Cleveland, which is terrible.
Okay, so not good.
No, it's not good. No, it's not at all. And so we're 6-3. Can we make the playoffs? I think we're going to figure out a way to throw the season away. But I have 6 victory Mondays this year, so I'm pretty excited about it. So even if we don't make the playoffs, this year hasn't sucked. Number 2, the March Madness was canceled. Now, what you're probably thinking is, Jordan, you're a dick. That was one of the best moments for you of the 2020 pandemic. Hey, hold on here. Let me explain. The NCAA lost a shitload of money, and we all know the NCAA are a bunch of greedy bastards who get rich off of students and their skills, which I think is at the lowest end of a human. So the fact that the NCAA lost so much money because this basketball tournament was canceled, I love it. So have at it. And number 4 for me, I got to watch Skip Bayless cry himself to sleep every night because LeBron James, I tried to think of his middle name. I don't know it. I was going to make it up and say it was Grace. LeBron.
It's Ramon.
Is it really Ramon?
I think it's LeBron Ramon.
Oh, that's really weird. That's why we don't hear it. Yeah, he's number 1. I'm so glad the King got his 4th ring. It should be his 6th because I counted the Cavs ring. Its weight is about 3 championships to me instead of 1. But, it is what it is. Yeah, And, that is my top 4 at 4.
Hey, switch it up.
All right, we're switching up. So let's
Woo.
go ahead and move into our next segment. And let's talk some basketball, some NBA basketball. Let's talk about how the Cavs screwed up again. Let's talk about how James Harden all of a sudden isn't happy. We'll talk about the best brick shooter in the NBA and the neighborhood hoe, Danny Green. And so, Jordan, let's start with the NBA draft that took place last night.
Okay.
Anthony Edwards goes number 1 to the Timberwolves.
He does.
Before the draft, have you ever heard of Anthony Edwards?
He was one of a couple guys that I knew. When I say a couple, I mean 2 guys. Him and LaMelo Ball. The only 2 guys I had known.
Okay, well, so that means you have
And Wiseman.
Okay, Wiseman. So you don't know who the Cavs took?
I saw it. Okura. I saw, but I've never been a huge. I love the NFL draft. I love watching people even in the 6th and the 7th rounds in the NFL draft, but I can't get into the basketball draft because I don't know them, and if I can't have an emotional connection or a feeling from that, I just can't connect like I can with the NFL draft. So.
No, I totally get what you mean.
I know you love the NBA draft, though. It's your favorite.
No. Well, maybe on a day. But, when the Cavs continuously hurt me like the Cleveland Browns, I wasn't close to anybody, but Obi Toppin and I, we were very close. We had a great relationship. We talked every day, and it seemed like he was coming to the Cavs, and the Cavs had one thing to do, and it was to completely botch it.
Yeah.
And they botched it.
And he's going to the Knicks.
To the New York Knicks. And now the New York Knicks are going to get turned around. And just watch. The Knicks are going to get Gordon Hayward. They're going to build a nice team. They're better than the Cavs. And Isaac Okoro is going to go down right behind your favorite Cavalier of all time, Anthony Bennett.
Oh, I love Anthony Bennett. For those of you who forget who Anthony Bennett is, that's the guy we took in the first round a couple years ago. And he was horrible. I mean, horrific. Yeah, we're not going back to the Anthony Bennett days. Nothing can be worse than that. This pick won't. I don't know. How do you feel about the pick? Are you that upset about it? You don't think he's a good player?
I just think there's too many question marks. He has a very suspect jump shot, which you need to be able to shoot in the league, especially when you have 2 point guards that like to drive and kick. Colin Sexton isn't a spot-up shooter. I thought that Obi Toppin addressed the need because the Cavs want to move on from Kevin Love. Obi Toppin plays power forward. But, hey, they took a guy that has size and plays defense, which apparently nobody in this league plays anymore, so that'll be nice. But
yeah.
He has a lot of work. It seems like he's a bit of a project, but hopefully I'm wrong. And if I'm not wrong, Kobe Altman sucks. He just sucks.
He's bad. He's bad.
He's made some boneheaded moves that people don't talk about. But, right now he's starting to get up there towards Hugh Jackson level.
Yep. But, they're hollering, I think, in the comments. Guys, Mitch can't see your comments. I'm running everything, so it's I'm getting your comments. You need to turn your mic up a little bit, they said.
Oh, damn.
So, Mitch, what do you think about everything surrounding Houston? How hilarious is it that 2 guys who have... I'm echoing on your end because of that whatever you just put in, by the way. Not anymore.
Oh, how about now?
Oh, we can hear you now. I don't know what happened, but
All
you're
right,
good. So,
All right, good.
All right. So, how hilarious
So
of a predicament about this Houston? Russell Westbrook and James Harden are trying to get out of there. And I forget what bonehead I was listening to earlier, just a moron. He was like, they should be able to do that. Coaches do that. I'm like, yeah, but those coaches typically suck and they're getting fired. Like these aren't 2 guys who have spent 5 minutes playing with each other. They had to know it was going to take more than a season. Would you break that up or would you keep them? Because I feel like having Russell Westbrook and James Harden, it could work, but you have to spend at least 5 minutes together to see if it works. It's kind of like the Clippers. They only spent 5 minutes with each other. I mean, if they would have had a whole season, they would have certainly beaten the Lakers. Not even a doubt in my mind.
I mean, and you add in that it was already a shortened season with COVID, and you have the time that they were meshing that now they lost when they had to go to the bubble. So I think it's hilarious. I didn't think Russ and Harden would work anyways, but I don't agree with where Harden wants to go.
Hey, switch it up.
There's a latency right now. That wasn't. I don't know where that came from. Sorry, guys. This is the pilot episode. We're just trying to figure this out. Look at me. Like, do you expect a guy like me to figure out how to do something like this the first time through? No, you wouldn't be on here. So let's switch it up. Let's hop on over. How about you go ahead and give us your opinion on that Houston stuff, and then we'll switch it up. And I'm echoing in behind you.
Oh, okay. So you didn't hear anything on the Houston stuff. Oh, boy.
Yeah, it's
okay.
You
got to love the pilot episode, don't you?
And, it is what it is. So let's go into the third segment, which, before we do that, how about you give us your afternoon headlines?
Afternoon headlines?
Afternoon headlines.
All right, let's go ahead and do the afternoon headlines then. It's a boring day, boring afternoon. Okay, so let's just start out up top. Klay Thompson confirmed torn Achilles tendon in his right leg and is out for the season. What does that mean for the Golden State Warriors?
I mean, I think they had a really thin razor margin like for error this year because I still think the Clippers are the best team in the West. And that means the Lakers are the number 2 team. And that means that they wouldn't have to just get past the Lakers. They would have to get past the Clippers. I just didn't see that happening. I think the Clippers at full strength and the Golden State at full strength. I'd like the Clippers running away. So they're just too long, especially with Steph Curry being a liability on defense. But that sucks. I feel bad. I actually like Klay Thompson. It definitely sucks.
We're talking about not seeing him on a court for over 2 years. You have to wonder if he's going to come back and be the same shooter or player that he was. I think it completely just ruins Golden State chances to even compete for a playoff spot now. Phoenix got better by getting Chris Paul. I mean, that's a team that was in the playoffs. They went undefeated in the bubble. Portland's probably going to be healthy to start the year, so we'll see what happens. But tough injury for Klay.
That sucks.
Next up, Jordan, the Pac-12 has announced they will allow non-conference games if games get canceled this year in college football. Now, keep in mind, Ohio State was just canceled last week against Maryland. They were not allowed to find another game. Nebraska has had a game canceled this year when they were supposed to play Wisconsin. Didn't get to play. The Pac-12 is now allowing teams to find a non-conference game if a game gets canceled. How do you feel about this? And are you pissed off at Kevin Warren of the Big Ten for not allowing Ohio State to schedule more games?
I'm going to go from the top and then back from what you just said. Let's start with Warren. That was the last thing you said. I don't like him at all. I think he's dumb. But that's okay. It's not that big of a deal. This could have still been salvaged had they just been like the administration and all the heads at all the universities were just really stubborn early on. And if they could have had an intelligent, constructive, if constructive dialogue could have taken place, we wouldn't have had to start the season as late as we had to, because the SEC made it several weeks just fine. And honestly, when the entire country picked up, including games canceled for the Big Ten, the SEC just had started getting games canceled. And I think the first one was the big one. It was when the game leading up to when Dan Mullen said, we're going to pack the stands with 100,000 people in the middle of a pandemic. That week, their entire team got COVID. And that was the first time that SEC in any of the other conferences had got it. So the time, starting late didn't help at all. So I'm definitely upset about that. And to go back to the beginning, what did you open? Oh yeah, Maryland. Maryland got canceled for the second time. and that was breaking news earlier, and I missed that. I meant to tell you something earlier. So that's the second week in a row where Maryland's not get to play a game. They can't make it up, and for some reason they've been so strict on where they're going to have the bowls. Like, they're not moving the bowls. The dates are already set. And, like, we're in the middle of a pandemic. So, yes, it's very frustrating because, honestly, being a Buckeye fan, if we only play 4 games and other teams play 8 or 9, I can't, even though I know we're one of the top 4 teams, I couldn't even be mad if they said, we can't have them. They are one of the top 4 teams, but they've played 4 games. That's nothing.
Let's keep in mind the Big Ten rules are you have to play at least 6 games to be eligible for the Big Ten championship. So right now, Ohio State's 2 cancellations away from being in a predicament. Mm-hmm. But we'll have to wait and see. Hopefully no more games get canceled. Jordan, this next headline I brought up because it was a pretty dry afternoon. I went ahead and sent you some pictures. Yeah. And I'm going to expose myself here to the audience. Oh, yeah. I lost again at fantasy football this week.
Oh, no.
So I just want you to look at that picture I sent you and then let me know if I had the absolute worst all-active fantasy football team of all time. Because I'm now 1-9, and fans, the only reason I have a win this year is because Tyler Lockett went over 200 yards receiving with like 3 touchdowns and covered his balls. So that's the only reason I have a win. So, Jordan, is this the worst fantasy football team you've ever seen?
Yeah, when your best wide receiver doesn't catch passes, that's pretty bad. You have Amari Cooper. I haven't heard his name called once this year, which is crazy because you hear the Cowboys talked about way too much for how bad they are. I shouldn't know their team that well, but he hasn't had a great season. Nick Chubb's been hurt. Yeah. If your starting quarterback started to play 2 weeks ago, you're in trouble. So, yes, that is a terrible team.
I mean, I do have one of the GOATs on the bench, but at this rate, I'm just trying to go for the worst season ever. I have not scored over 100 points in 5 straight weeks. So that, I mean, if you're going to be good at sucking, I mean, you got to try, right?
Yeah. This is the first.
That's what I'm doing.
This is the first time I haven't played fantasy football since I started, which is a long time ago. Yeah, a long time ago. I was tired of winning. I decided I'm going to let some other people win. You know what I mean? When you're the best, you're the best. And, you know, it loses its thrill after a while. So you wouldn't know that because you're starting to tango. But, you know, it's okay.
Not wrong. I am glad you brought up being the best because that's where this next headline takes us to wrap up the headlines for this afternoon.
Oh, God.
Michael B. Jordan was voted the hottest man of 2020 by People's Magazine.
Okay.
Do you agree with that? Or are you surprised at that?
I mean, Michael B. Jordan's a really good looking guy. And he has a great name. I mean, he's named after arguably the best of all time, you know? So,
my dad?
Yes.
Michael? Yeah,
yes.
That's right.
Yes.
Big Mike. Shut up, Big Mike.
And so, yeah, I could rock with that. He's a good looking dude. He's played some characters in movies that show him, show his physique. And so I can see why people would choose him. What would you, yeah? Got man crush? Is that why this is on the headline?
Well, no, I just, we like to talk about things other than sports. I was a little surprised by it. I thought that I was up for the award, but I think after this podcast blows up, by 2021, I should be able to win the award.
You were up for the award, huh? Huh.
Well, they didn't know that. I knew that because I told myself.
Like Yahoo Sports? Is that who said that?
MySpace.
Oh, MySpace. Gotcha.
Yeah, and Club Penguin. So they had me on there, so that was good. But that wraps up this afternoon's dry-ass headlines.
Well, thank you, Mitch. I appreciate that. We're going to move into college football. It's a weird season. It's a really weird season. When Cincinnati's sitting like 8th in the country or so, like it's a really weird season. I want to know your top 4 college football teams in rankings 1 through 4 right now. And I do. Yes, right now. Who do you think are the 4 best teams? Not the 4 most deserving teams, not like teams that have played more games and so they carry more weight. I'm just saying if you could take one game all these teams have played, you watch it, who are the best 4 teams?
I mean, without a doubt, Alabama's up there. Ohio State's up there.
I need 1 through 4. I need.
Oh, well, I'm going 1. Bama 1. They have a bigger sample size than Ohio State, although by the end of the season, I will say Ohio State's the best team.
Okay.
Ohio State number 2.
All right.
I can't say Clemson. I was going to say Clemson, but I can't. They have a loss.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's Notre Dame because Notre Dame's been shaky. So let's start firing off some things here. Cincinnati, they've looked good.
Whew. The Bearcats number 3. Wow.
They look good while doing it, and that's what they're doing.
Wow. Okay.
And then I'll go ahead and do another Big Ten team that Ohio State plays this week, Indiana. You know what? Come at me for my list.
The Hoosiers.
They're undefeated, right? The Hoosiers.
They sound as good as the Hoosiers that you can find on DVD. They're not that good. They're not Gene Hackman good. You think the Hoosiers are Gene Hackman good?
Hey, I'm just trying to up Ohio State's toughness right here. They play them this week.
Whew. Number 4.
No, honestly, Clemson should probably be in there.
No, you can't go back.
One loss is out.
Take integrity.
There's no rules. There's no rules.
That's what Nick Wright says.
Fine,
he says take integrity.
All right. Well, if we're taking integrity, then Marshall is the 5th best team in the country. My sleeper. Boom. There you go.
Did you just do that because they had their 50th year anniversary? Is that why you said Marshall? Is that why you're giving them that shout out?
Too soon. First off, too soon.
No, I'm not.
Secondly,
I'm not joking.
No, I know.
It was actually their anniversary.
I saw the game.
Gotcha.
Which they have not lost on the anniversary, which
Really?
is pretty remarkable. Plus, if someone beat you on that anniversary, wouldn't that's kind of messed up if you did that. But no, I've been high on Marshall the past 2-3 years. I think Marshall is a very good football team. And then, just because I know our good friend of the show, Sam Summers, is watching, he wants us to make a case for Kent State, but that's just not the case. They let Akron hang 35 points on them.
No, but they won by 34. Imagine scoring a gazillion points, because that's how many points Kent State scored. A gazillion. Sam Summers.
But imagine.
I get it. When you score a gazillion points.
The Zips?
Yeah, but
the Zips?
They scored a lot. I'm just saying.
Akron might be the worst D1 football team of all time. That's all I'll say. We're giving our top 4. I'll give you last place. Akron. It's Akron.
In UAB, the Blazers are a bad football team. I'm going to give you my top 4 at 4.
Yes, please give me your top 4.
It's a little more traditional. I'm going to go with 1. I'm going to go with Bama. Their defensive line is enormous. They're just the biggest human beings I've ever seen in my life. And so when you control the line of scrimmage, you win all your games. The Colts have Phillip Rivers as their quarterback, and they're winning a division. If that shows you offensive line and defensive line play don't mean anything, watch the Colts. So, that spans in college. It's always about offensive line, defensive line, and they're just bigger. They're bigger, and I think that's why Notre Dame is, for me, at number 2, because they are so big up front. They just are, and they have a quarterback who can move. I don't think he's a top-tier quarterback, but I think he's a really good quarterback, and he's good enough with what they have around him. Brian Kelly, he's hitting a sweet spot right now, and I have them at 2. I got the Buckeyes at 3. We just have no running game. We've watched more Buckeyes than maybe some other people who are listening, but that's because we're Buckeye fans. And this is the first time in a long time that we just don't have a back who can go. Trey Sermon and Master Chief are just, it's Master Teague, but it's Master Chief, are just not explosive at all. Not at all. And it's really bizarre for us to not have a top back. So I have us at 3 because I can, you can only pass so much. Maybe. I don't know. We have Ryan Day, so maybe we can figure it out. At number 4, I got the Bearcats. I like the Bearcats, and I've watched 2 Clemson games. I watched Clemson play at Boston College, and they looked horrendous.
We watched that game together.
We did. And they had 3 this past week they had 3 guys out on the defensive side of the ball, and I don't trust that they'll all be back. And so even when they do come back, I don't know if they're better than Notre Dame, because Notre Dame made a lot of mistakes. They played that game, and I think they can clean that up. Mm-hmm. So that's my top 4 at 4. Now, the state up north right now.
Well, hold on. I need your sleeper team first.
My sleeper
I gave you
team.
Marshall. Yeah, Marshall's my sleeper team.
Oh, okay.
So watch out for the Thundering Herd. So who's your sleeper team?
My sleeper team? Oh, man, I'm going to go with Wisconsin.
Okay.
Yeah.
With Mertz at quarterback. Okay.
Yeah, they just play a physical game of football, and I like it a lot. I think that matches up really well. So they're my sleeper team.
How do you feel about BYU? BYU is another team that's kind of sneaky right now, undefeated, winning in fashion.
I just don't trust like a university that is in city limits to where the max amount of drinks are 2 drinks, for dinner. Like they have a max in their entire state. I don't trust a university that presides in a state that would put such a law in place. Even if I didn't drink alcohol, I don't like it. So I don't trust BYU. I've watched them play. I don't trust them.
Okay.
They do have a great quarterback.
They're very listen. I think they're a solid team. I don't think they're a contender, but I think they are a pretender.
Oh, they could make a New Year's Six bowl. It's possible.
Oh yeah, right. I'm talking college football playoff. There's no, I mean, unless the other teams get COVID and just can't play anymore, maybe. But I mean,
yeah.
I don't know. Oh, I mean, I'll give Liberty a shout out too, because Liberty's another team that's undefeated, looks pretty good, has beaten some big time D1s. So, but at Jordan, before I interrupted you, please go back to where we were moving next.
The state up north right now is really struggling, and they're struggling for a lot of reasons. But I want to know your reasons why Jim Harbaugh can't get over the hump. And do you think that Michigan should think about parting with Jim Harbaugh like this year?
Oh, I think they think about it. Absolutely. They have to. I think the boosters are upset, but do they do it? I don't know. He's owed $7.5 million. That's tough. I think that everyone argues that there's no candidates out there for him. I think there's plenty of people that can go in there. I think their biggest problem is recruiting because everyone wants to go to Bama, Clemson, Ohio State. You can't beat your rival. He has not beaten his rival one time, has not reached Indianapolis one time since he's been the head coach. Can't get a quarterback, by the way. Let's just talk about he's not had a quarterback.
I mean, Shea Patterson was a 5-star quarterback in high school, but he just didn't.
Rankings don't mean anything.
Oh, well, exactly. He didn't pan out, but the recruiting was there to get him. He just wasn't any good. But keep going.
5-star before Tate Martell, he was a bum.
That's true. That is true.
Yeah, so that's the stars don't mean anything. But I mean, he can't get a quarterback at Michigan. He doesn't make good in-game adjustments. That's obvious. He gets blown out by Wisconsin, as we just saw once again after they hadn't played for 3 weeks.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't
rough.
know how you allow that to happen. I hope they don't fire him just because I like kicking their ass every year as an Ohio State fan. It is a joy. So I hope he gets a lifetime contract because to this point, it looks like he has continuously gotten worse when he plays Ohio State every year. And I love it.
Yeah. Oh, I get it. I remember when they hired him, and I was really excited that Michigan hired him. As a person who loves to win, and I do love to win, it's not, winning doesn't really mean anything if you don't have to go through anything to get there. So I wanted Jim Harbaugh to take Michigan to the top, to be better than they've ever been. I would say better than they've ever been in their history, but that wouldn't take much. Their history isn't as rich as people think. Since 1997, they've lost at least 2 games every year, except one. You know how many undefeated seasons that we've had? Urban Meyer had 2 undefeated seasons back-to-back. Nick Saban's done it. And so has, I can't stand him. What's his face from Clemson? Dabo Swinney.
Swinney. Your favorite college coach.
Yeah. I think Jim Harbaugh's a really good coach. I just think he's really struggling. I don't know if he's going to be able to get himself. I mean, he took Kaepernick to the stinking Super Bowl. He made Stanford good. He's a good coach. I mean, he's won 10 games 3 times. I could make a case that the one game against Ohio State, that call on 4th and 1 was not they didn't get it because I didn't think we got it. I think Michigan got cheated. I mean, I love it because I don't like Jim Harbaugh. I like him for college football, but I don't like him personally. So, I mean, it was great.
I like him
But-
as head coach because, like I said,
I don't know who you're going to bring in. The first thing I think of when firing somebody is, okay, is the person you're bringing in better than the person you're firing? Because if they're not, why are you firing them? Because that doesn't make any sense to me. So you're not going to find anybody better than Jim Harbaugh. I would just help him right this ship. I mean, he's considerably better than... I mean, Bo Schembechler, I mean, you were talking about this off air earlier, won 5 out of 17 bowl games, and he was the greatest thing ever. 5 out of 17? 5-12? That's pretty bad. That's really
That's
bad.
not good.
And those are primetime games. That's like Kirk Cousins, starting his first 9 primetime games, no primetime wins. Well, he's not a game time player, is what we would say, what we'd call him.
I would
It's
agree.
the same thing. So what do you think about, I almost said Kirk Franklin, but it's James Franklin. What do you think about James Franklin? Do you think Penn State thinks about the same thing?
I think Penn State has to think about the same thing. I think James Franklin only has a job because of one play that saved his ass, and that was the blocked field goal return for a touchdown against our Buckeyes.
Yeah.
It's hard to imagine that these two guys still have their job, but I think Harbaugh is more deserving. My buddy Jake made a good point. You know Jake Balla.
I do.
That the coaches really got to prove this year how good of coaches they were to get their teams prepared for the season with all this time off and how they prepared. And James Franklin has come out and fallen flat on his face, and the team continued to run over him onto the field. And then the water girl ran over him too because he was still on his face because he doesn't know how to coach. And I think Franklin is more likely to go after the season. I think he's a bad head coach, and I really do think that he's hanging on to that one win and the one Big Ten championship appearance he has.
I think you're right, and I can't stand James Franklin. I don't like to watch people get fired, but people who suck at their jobs, I love it. So James Franklin, step right up to where Bill O'Brien was standing not too long ago, and take your ass kicking like a man. I can't wait till he's gone. I can't stand James Franklin. He's just really snide in his press conferences. I can't take it, and he makes excuses, and I can't stand people who make excuses. And so, yeah, I hope he gets fired. That'd be great. I hope they bring in somebody who's really good. I'd be okay with it. I just don't want to see him have success. I'm okay with Jim Harbaugh sticking around, though. I don't like him, but he's good for the kids, is what I'd say. He's good for the kids.
Good for the kids. Okay. I agree. I think it really depends how the season ends for them, but right now it looks like they're stuck in a spot, and I don't see him getting out anytime soon. So I think we're both on the same page that he should be fired and probably will be fired sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
So let's throw it back then to our Ohio State Buckeyes, who we already addressed how bad Michigan is. So let's talk about our biggest game of the year, which is this Saturday at home in the Horseshoe against the Indiana Hoosiers, number 9 versus number 3. And keep in mind, which you didn't know this till I told you today off air, there will be no parents and family in the stands anymore
that's
for the rest of
wild.
Ohio State home games.
That's bonkers. It's weird.
Do you like the number 3 Ohio State Buckeyes to cover this weekend at home at noon? They're a 20.5-point favorite.
They're 20.5-point favorites? Oh, we're not beating them
Yes.
by 20.5. No way in hell we're beating them by 20.5. No way. We can't run the ball well enough to beat them by 21.5. 20.5? Who writes these? That is terrible. If you're going to put
Franklin.
money on this game, put money on this game. Indiana will certainly cover. We couldn't even cover at Penn State. We're not covering at Indiana. What do you think? You think we can cover that?
It's hard for me to tell because you look at Indiana's record now, and they've beaten Penn State, who isn't good. Some of the other teams they've beaten in the Big Ten, Indiana looks good. Indiana to me looks like the second best team in the Big Ten, at least on the east side.
Yeah, I agree.
I think Indiana can hang in there. I ultimately think that the biggest difference is going to come down to the coaching, which I think Ryan Day is a phenomenal head coach, and I think the athletes themselves. Ohio State out-recruits Indiana every year. There's a reason we get these stud athletes. So I really do expect it to be close in the first half, look a little bit shaky. Ohio State didn't play last week. Keep that in mind. And I think the Buckeyes come out in the second half and make adjustments and win. And I think they can cover the 20.5. I really do. That's how confident I am in Justin Fields. That's how confident I am in our offense. I think the running game will get going. It's not going to be, obviously, years past. We don't have J.K. Dobbins, Mike Weber, Ezekiel Elliott, Breontae Dunn. Sorry, forget that last one. But I still think that they can come out and win by more than 3 touchdowns over this Hoosier team. I think this is their statement game. This is the biggest game of the year.
I just don't. I mean, our defense is good. I don't think our defense is great, and I just don't think we're gonna cover. But we're gonna find out. Maybe me and you should put money on this game. This might be my easiest money ever, guys, ever. Put your house on it. Your house. Take your parents' deed to. Would it be deed? And sell it. Put the house. I'm telling you.
The deed.
I just can't. Yeah, I think it's the deed. I don't know.
We're not responsible. We're not responsible though if you do put your house up and lose the money. Let's make that clear.
Oh no.
The Cover Your Balls podcast is not responsible for anything you lose.
No, we're only responsible for all the balls we cover.
And we cover a lot of balls. But if we're talking about bets, who's the betting favorite to win the Heisman Trophy, in your opinion?
As long as he plays 7 games, Justin Fields will certainly win the Heisman.
Now, are you shocked after last week the ESPN had Kyle Trask of Florida as the front runner to win the Heisman Trophy?
I'm not surprised by
you?
that at all, because a lot of those analysts over at ESPN are really high on Florida, and I'm not at all. At all. No, I'm not high on the team in general. How can you have a Heisman winner who isn't? I don't think Kyle Trask. Ask yourself this. If you win the Heisman, are you not the best player on your team? He's not the best player on his team. He's probably not a top 10 player on his team. How could he win the Heisman? That makes no sense.
Pitts is the best player on their team.
It's mind-boggling.
It doesn't make any sense.
No, how could he? You have to be the best on your team. He's not even close. That's like
okay.
Rob Parker logic. Rob Parker could probably figure out a way to make sure that Kyle Trask that he's there for the Heisman, but we're not going by Rob Parker logic. I'm sorry. Rob Parker, he just gets me wound up.
So you have Justin Fields winning it, then who's it to? Give me your top 3.
Oh, Sunshine.
Sunshine's 2?
Oh, Sunshine's 2 for sure. Yeah, Trevor Lawrence is certainly 2. I think they just love him. So if it's not Justin Fields, it's going to be Trevor Lawrence.
And then who's number 3? Now, the other ones have had Mac Jones from Alabama, Travis Etienne from Clemson.
Chris Olave.
Ooh,
That's who I have.
I mean, he's a dog.
He is.
I'm trying to figure out the ways already the Browns can trade up and get him in the draft next year.
I know. He's going to be good. He's going to be good.
He's going to be very good. He'll be very good. So I think Fields is going to run away with this. It's Fields and Lawrence, in my opinion, unless Trevor comes back and does not play well after having COVID. And if Ohio State doesn't play 7 or 8 games and get to the college football playoff, it's one of those 2. Because when you talk about the best prospects in this college football class for the NFL, it's Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields. Nobody's talking about Kyle Trask. Nobody's talking about Travis Etienne. These are the top 2 guys in college football, and they're slated to go top 2 in the draft for a reason. So, before we switch gears to the NFL, who goes number 1 and number 2 in the draft? You taking Fields 1 or you taking Lawrence 1?
I think Lawrence will go first, but I think I wouldn't be shocked if behind closed doors they wanted to draft Fields but went with Lawrence just because of all the people like Todd McShay and what's his face?
Mel Kiper Jr.
Mel Kiper Jr. You know what? They've made Trevor Lawrence the best guy since Andrew Luck, basically, or in the last 2 decades. Like complete, those are probably the best 2, is what they say. But those aren't the best 2 quarterbacks in the last decade. They're not, or they'd be number 1 and number 2. We haven't even seen the one yet, so we'll find out. I think Fields could be better than Lawrence, but I think the fear of drafting Fields and it not working out, because I've never seen a Buckeye quarterback ever work out. Ever. So, I don't trust that. I mean, the only one that was good in the NFL that I remember didn't even play quarterback. He played wide receiver. He's Terrell Pryor. He had a good season for us. But quarterbacks at Ohio State don't work out in any position. Braxton Miller couldn't play wide receiver. It's not for everybody. So
I agree with that. I agree. I completely agree with the fear of taking him and striking out. I do think that when you look at the size of him too, Lawrence is the prototypical NFL-sized quarterback that everybody wants. It's just going to really suck when he goes to the New York Jets and you don't hear about him ever again, because they are going to be atrocious.
I think they'll probably be worse next year than they are this year, to be honest. I have no idea what the hell they're doing. It makes no sense what they're doing at all. Not even a little bit. You can kind of see where the Giants were going a little bit, but you're like, Gettleman, eh. But with the Jets, they make no apologies. We suck. This is who we are. These are the deals we're going to make. These are the people we're going to trade away. Jamal Adams. They made people so upset that they had to trade away Jamal Adams and Le'Veon Bell. That's how bad their organization is and the infrastructure they had underneath, within it. It's so bad. That's the worst team. They have to be worse than the Browns teams we've watched, right?
They are by far and away way worse than the 0-16 Browns team.
That's what I thought.
They are. They're a train wreck. Here's a good question for you, because I think they're a train wreck because their head coach.
Yeah.
Who would you rather take as your head coach? And you have to take one of the two. Adam Gase or Hugh Jackson?
Hugh Jackson. I'll tell you why. Adam Gase, when he was down in Miami, made Ryan Tannehill look awful. Looked awful. And Adam Gase was supposed to be this guru, and that's why he got the Jets job. In fact, 2 months ago, when about 2 months ago, when they started the season, they looked really bad. People were really coming out and just hammering him about how bad he was. And the owner came out and said, we're not going to change anything. He's an offensive guru. So that's what they think he is. He's this illusion that he knows what he's doing offensively, and he doesn't. And Hugh Jackson, Andy Dalton never looked better he hasn't looked good outside of being with Hugh Jackson. So, if I have Adam Gase has never had success, really, and Hugh Jackson's had it. Hugh Jackson just was a phony. I didn't believe in him. Watching Hard Knocks was hard because he was super phony, and he's one of those guys that he's in the room and he wants to let you know that he's in charge. He's one of those guys. Now you guys do what I tell you to do, and then we'll no. And they saw through that stuff. That's why Baker came out and said what he said. That's one of those things where people thought it was. Baker shouldn't have done that. That was the only time he had an outburst where I was like, okay, I understand why. I thought he was a phony too. So I take Adam Gase. Who would you take? All right, take Hugh Jackson, not Adam Gase.
I really don't know, because if we're talking head coach, Hugh Jackson didn't work as a head coach. The most wins he had was an 8-8 season in Oakland. He had 1 win in 2 seasons with the Browns. Adam Gase did take the Dolphins to the playoffs 1 year. They did make the playoffs. I just, obviously, I said you have to pick somebody. I'd rather not take either of them. I'd probably take James Franklin.
Marvin Lewis, never mind, go ahead.
Marvin Lewis. Marvin Lewis is a different story.
I was going to go down a rabbit hole. Go ahead.
Yeah. I guess you would say Hugh, because his 0-16 team looked less bad than this winless team right now. I guess I could see. I don't know. I don't know. I'll go. Just for the sake of this, I'll go Adam Gase.
Okay. All right.
Hey, switch it up.
Hop on the Hugh bandwagon, but switch it up.
That actually came in without me even pushing the button. So,
all right.
Let's hop into that last segment. How about them Brownies? We're 6-3. Pretender or contender?
Oh boy. I want to hear your analysis of this first.
Okay. Definitely pretender, and this is why. We're 6-3, and we're not even. If they took 8 teams to the playoff, we would be in it. We're 6-3, and we're 7th and 8th. Let's see here. The last 3 teams, the Chiefs are going to win the division. Let's say the Colts. They look like they're going to win it, not the Titans. Kansas City's going to win their division. Maybe. We'll see. They should. And what's our last team? The division
AFC
is
North, Steelers.
the Steelers, right? So then you have the Ravens. Well, we're not going to have a better record than the Ravens, are we? I don't think so.
What?
The Titans, we play the Titans. We've gotten smashed by the Titans the last 2 years. And guess what? Even if we have the same record as the Titans, they'd win on a tiebreaker. Well, the Ravens already beat us once, and then it's going to go to division record, and the Ravens probably can beat the Steelers, so they're probably going to, regardless of if we split with the Ravens, they're going to have a better in-division strength win percentage, so they're going to have it. The Dolphins have a really easy schedule. They're going to get 10 wins. The Dolphins are going to get 10 wins. The Dolphins could also still win their division, by the way.
That's true. They still play the Bills again.
And then Oakland. And guess what? Oakland already beat us, and they own the head-to-head, and they're 6-3. And so I just gave you – that's 9 teams, and they take 7. And I don't think we're going to beat Pittsburgh. I think we could beat the Ravens, but I don't want to give us too much credit than we deserve, because what I want to say is I think we can finish the season 5-2, because I really think we could. But, we could end up losing to the Giants and the Jets back-to-back weeks. That's the Browns. I don't know what's going to happen. So what do you think? Do you think they're a pretender or contender?
They're a pretender. They're a pretender. When you look at all the facts, that the score differential, it's the worst ever for a team. Like, they would be the worst team ever with the score differential if they made the playoffs. And yes, that's in part to absolutely getting annihilated by the Ravens and Steelers, but it's a young team. It's a very young team, and I think it's going to be a good football team for years to come. The only thing that I'm hesitant on saying they're a pretender is you look at their schedule that you just said, and if we're going by the eye test, they have at least 4 more wins. So they're going to go 10-6 if you're doing that, right? But they're the Browns. The Cleveland Browns lose to a team they have no business losing to, and they beat a team they have no business beating, which means I'm not going to be shocked when they drop a game to the Jaguars or the Jets, and then they'll beat the Ravens on Monday night. It'll be a really convincing game. They'll beat them, and they'll lose to the Jets in Week 16 or something along those. I mean, I'm prepared for it. I've been waiting for it all year. Now, we said last week that game against the Texans, when DPJ fumbled the kickoff or muffed the kickoff, that game in years past the Browns lose. They don't
every time. Every time.
The game in Cincinnati earlier this year, where it was a shootout with Baker and Burrow, that team doesn't have that confidence to go down in a minute, 11 seconds to score and win the game. That's the only difference I see right now, is this isn't the same old Browns. But until I see that for a full 16 games, I can't fully get behind it. I think Kevin Stefanski is great. I think he's had times where he looks brilliant, other times where he looks like a rookie head coach. But that's what you're – no preseason with the COVID and everything. I didn't know what to expect. I take that first game against the Ravens, toss it out the window, because that was the first time those guys were on the field against another team. And you're talking about a lot of moving parts, new parts and everything, new offense. So I think the Browns finish at 9-7 and miss the playoffs. I could see 10-6 and get in, but if they get into the 7th seed, do you feel comfortable going to Pittsburgh or Kansas City? Because that's where it's going to be, and I don't feel comfortable.
Well, I feel more comfortable than that than having our asses on the couch and not getting to watch the game. Yeah. I'll take – hey, this is the only time that I would rather get in and then get embarrassed as opposed to not making it.
I think I want them to make the playoffs. I think that how young the team, they deserve to get in there and see what it's like, get a little taste.
No, we deserve to get in if we get in. That's how that works.
You're right. That's how it works.
Yeah.
But then Pat Mahomes will find his new best friend, Andrew Sadejo, and he'll break a record in the playoffs for most touchdowns and yards thrown with a garbage can in coverage. But that's for another time.
Fair. I understand. I get it. So, who are your top NFL teams?
It's tough now because I thought my NFC pick was brilliant, and then Drew Brees had to go break 5 ribs and have a punctured lung or a collapsed lung. I thought the way they dominated the Buccaneers on Sunday Night Football a couple weeks ago really sent a statement, but I don't have that much trust in famous Jameis yet. Maybe he'll prove me wrong, but in the NFC, I think I have to go with the Packers because Aaron Rodgers is playing magical per usual. I can't take the Seahawks because their defense is atrocious.
Worst statistical defense ever in the NFL history. Ever.
Yes. I would probably say it's the Packers and the Buccaneers right now, or my top 2 in the NFC. AFC, I think it's the Chiefs and the Steelers. I still think the Chiefs are the best team in football. I think they're bored, quite frankly. They know that they're the best team in football. They know they can turn it on. The Steelers defense, I think, will be the first defense to give Pat Mahomes fits if they meet up in the playoffs. That defense is legit. It's scary. But if we're talking the top teams on each side, I think it's the Steelers and Chiefs AFC, Packers and Buccaneers in the NFC. I think there's a big drop-off between other teams then.
I want to disagree with you, but that is exactly what I have right now. And I guess I can tell you how it's different in terms of how I got to that point. So I think the Bucs and the Packers are the 2 best teams. If Drew Brees was better, if I could trust Drew Brees late in the season, and I can't because I have to look at the last three, and it's almost destiny at this point. I've watched them lose in every which way. I can't envision them winning. Like it's not even reality because I've watched some of the most ridiculous stuff ever happen to the Saints.
You're not wrong. I mean, the Minneapolis Miracle 2 years ago, and then 3 years ago, 2 years ago, then the non-pass interference call, which makes no sense. I mean, for those of you that don't know, I am a very big Drew Brees guy. I mean, he's my favorite non-Browns player, so it's been tough to watch this year. Jordan knows that, and my friends know that because they constantly take him away from me in fantasy football. That's okay, because who's laughing now? Because he's not on my team.
Woo!
All right, but keep going, please. I agree. So you agree with my 2 NFC teams?
I do. I think Tampa Bay just has too much firepower. I think their defense will figure it out. I think that a game against the Saints was just an anomaly. And I just trust Tom Brady in the playoffs. And I trust Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs. And honest to God, if the Seahawks had a defense, the Seahawks would, for me, be the best team in the NFC and actually in the entire league. But their defense is so bad. And the only reason Russell Wilson's had a rough 3 weeks is because he's pressing super hard. When you have to put up nearly 40 points a game to win the game, that's 6 possessions. That's 6 possessions. You have to feel like you need to put the world on your shoulders. And 98% of the time he can do it. But that 2% we're seeing right now. And that's the difference between a quarterback like Russell Wilson and Carson Wentz. Because Carson Wentz always tries to put the world on his back, and you just see how many flaws he has. And Russell Wilson, sometimes when he takes those chances, he'll throw for 5 touchdowns. We've seen him do that multiple times this year. But that, margin for error is not great when you're taking some chances. Let's go to the AFC. The Steelers are the best team in my I think they're the best team. I still don't think that they're going to beat Kansas City. I just don't think they can beat Kansas City. But I do think the Steelers are a better football team. Overall versus other opponents, just not head to head. I think they're a better team versus everyone else outside of them. I just think there's too many people to cover, and Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes. There's a reason he's doing commercials with Aaron Rodgers right now, and not Baker Mayfield. Because he's that man. He's a bad man. He should be locked up like Guantanamo style. Like, he's a bad man. Like, bad man. So those are my 4 teams. I think, without a doubt, unless the Steelers mess up, and I don't see them messing up, I think those teams will meet in the AFC title game. And I sure hope so. And the only way the Packers don't get out is if a team just bullies them, because they're not a very physical team. And they got, destroyed by the Bucs because they just got pushed around the field. And
They did.
We'll see. I mean, I don't think they can beat the Buccaneers. So Super Bowl for me is Kansas City versus the Bucs. But
I think they can beat the
early.
Bucs. If they have home field advantage and Tom Brady has to go play a game in Lambeau, that's a lot different than Tampa.
Yeah, but are there going to be any? You know what? The weather is so bad at that time that's the only place that you could pull what you just pulled, because Wisconsin weather are way worse than what they think they get in Boston. Nah.
Yeah,
up in Wisconsin, way worse. Not comparable. In my opinion, at least. So, you're 100% right. They could definitely beat Tampa Bay if they play up there in Cheesehead Land.
That's assuming they hang on to get the number 1 pick. So, give me your one team from each side now that could make a run, could knock off the Steelers or Chiefs, or could knock off the Packers or Buccaneers that we haven't talked about yet. A potential sleeper.
Oh, the Dolphins, 100%. Dolphins, 100%. They are outside of the Steelers, the Saints, the Chiefs. Brian Flores is that man. He's a really good coach, and the players believe him, and they play really hard for him. Even when we thought they were tanking in the beginning of last year, like, his team was like, "No, we got you, coach," and they started winning games at the end of the year. His team will be ready. I don't think Tua is going to make a lot of mistakes. Their special teams unit is as good as it can be, and their defense plays tough. I think they could make a run. And also because of the games that they have lined up and how just they're not a good matchup for other teams just because of the way they play defense. That's why the Steelers are a bad matchup, because when you play defense against teams that know both sides of the ball really well, it's And the NFC, team in the NFC, the Vikings. The Vikings are getting healthy. They're 4-5 right now. I know that it's not if you looked at the standings from an outside perspective, you'd be like, no way. But crazier things have happened, and I think Zimmer is still a great coach. I just think it was a rough start to a year. They were really banged up. They're getting healthy. Dalvin Cook's playing well. Kirk Cousins isn't ruining games. And so I think they could make a run for sure. Who do you got?
I'll start in the NFC. I like the Rams as a sleeper team. They're right in the thick of things out west.
I like it.
It could easily come down to them and the Cardinals. And let's remember, the Seahawks play the Cardinals tonight. That would be Russell Wilson's third straight loss, and pretty much knock the Seahawks out, bearing a collapse from the Rams or Cardinals. But
and MVP contention too. He'd be done.
Right, correct, absolutely. And he was a front runner for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But he doesn't play defense, so he can't do it all.
Nope.
Mr. Unlimited. So I think the Rams, given that they have the second best defensive player in the NFL in Aaron Donald behind Myles Garrett. They've been there before.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, their run game is pretty questionable right now, but they're starting to get healthy again. They have a trio of backs. Jared Goff, I think, is a very above average quarterback in that system with Sean McVay, and Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp outside. I just think it's a team, and Jalen Ramsey in the secondary. It's a really good team that nobody's talking about. So that's my sleeper team in the NFC. And the AFC, I don't know if you call them a sleeper, but this is going to go against your pick, is the Bills. I love the Bills.
You love the Bills, huh?
I do love the Bills. Josh Allen, I think he won't win it, but he's definitely made his case for MVP, or making a case for it.
Oh,
hey, look at the numbers he has thrown up.
Oh, gosh.
Look at the numbers. Hey, did he outduel Russ?
Oh, man.
He outdueled Russ.
Oh, that don't count. That doesn't count. Come on.
He's winning ball games. He's impressive. He's their best running back, too. I think the Bills are a big sleeper team. I think that's a team that could, assuming they get home field advantage till the AFC championship game or even the second or third round, that Bills are my sleeper team. I like the
Bills are your sleeper team. Oh, we're talking about that later. Off there. That's wild. You think
Bills Mafia.
Oh,
Bills
Josh.
Mafia, baby.
The fact that you think Josh Allen is that good is mind-boggling.
His numbers are off the charts this year.
Oh man, we'll talk about this. We'll talk about it. There's no way. This won't be the last time we talk about Josh Allen either. Let's close this pilot episode up. Go ahead.
I was going to say, before we do that, I just wanted to point out that it's pretty remarkable what a quarterback can do when he's been in one system his entire career with one head coach.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt.
Just saying that.
Yeah,
Baker Mayfield.
Baker, 4 different coaches. 4 people.
I'll ask you this. Have you seen enough right now, yes or no, that he's the franchise quarterback?
Have I seen enough? No. But with that said, I'm okay with figuring out a price that is worthy of his current talent in a short-term contract, possibly 2 years. We'll say, hey, Baker, here's the deal. You really haven't earned the right to have these big contracts. This is what we'll give you. We'll give you $25 million for 2 years. Okay, 25, which is hey, Teddy Bridgewater just got like 21, and he ain't no Teddy Bridgewater, in my opinion. But
Teddy Bridgewater is balling.
But he could be. We need to see him in a system long enough to where, you got to remember, no OTAs, no preseason. Right. That's important. That can't. There's a reason that Kent State and Akron put up that many points last night. There's a reason. Because the NFL and college this year, no one's been able. It's a lot harder to set up the defensive side of the ball. And you need to be together for that. With all these lack of OTAs and preseason stuff, people have been scoring in record numbers. The athletes just didn't all of a sudden from one year to the next get remarkably better. They're the same. The skill level is about the same. And so, yeah, I think if we give Baker, maybe 2 more years, we'll at least know. I'm tired of flipping over coaches and quarterbacks like this. Like, you need continuity and consistency enough to see if something works. You can't change something if you haven't seen enough to know what to change.
Who the hell are we going to get anyway? Are we going to have a top 5 pick to get Fields or Lawrence?
Hell no.
The free agent class is terrible.
You're close.
Is Case Keenum going to be our quarterback?
Case Keenum is not better than Baker Mayfield.
That's the case. I'm leaving and going to the Bills train right now. Bills Mafia. Jake Fearley, make room because I'm coming over, baby.
Oh my gosh.
That's all I'm saying.
Fair.
With Josh Allen over there, whew, man.
Josh Allen over there. Well, let's roll up into the last little segment of the show. Who has bigger balls? Let's go ahead.
Who has bigger balls?
And ask this question. I'm trying to bring something up, guys. It's we're not this disorganized, but it's something that's gonna say what the show is, and for some reason, I can't find it. That's super sad. Oh, here it is.
Well, why Jordan does it? You got it?
Who has bigger balls?
That's the start of that segment. You want to hear one more time? Okay, let's do it.
Who has bigger balls?
Who has bigger balls? This segment is brought to you by Who Has Bigger Balls. Mitchell, who has bigger balls? Carl Lentz, the former pastor at Hillsong United in New York, who just got fired for having a 6-month affair within the coronavirus. His megachurch has 10 to 20,000 people. He had this affair. He's Justin Bieber's pastor, Kevin Durant's pastor. Does he have bigger balls? Or does Tom Brady have bigger balls for bringing Antonio Brown into his home to live with him with his 2 kids and his smoking hot wife? Who has bigger balls? The guy who cheated on his wife, who literally is talking about being holy and is a pastor, or Tom Brady for bringing Antonio Brown into his household?
Oh, my.
It's tough.
That's really tough. But I mean, you look at a couple of things here. You look at some other variables, and I think that it's safe to say, when it comes down to it, it's a no-brainer. And obviously, Tom Brady has bigger balls for bringing Antonio Brown into the house. I mean, Lentz hurt somebody. He hurt feelings. So I mean, Antonio Brown has physically hurt people. I mean, through a lawn chair. I mean, we've seen the videos. I mean, listen. I mean, now you're talking kids are in the house too, and I mean, what if Tom's not there? Is he going to hurt Tom's kids, Tom's wife? I mean, I personally think that I'm not saying what.
Oh, he
Mr.
probably
Lentz did was right.
has a leash on Antonio Brown in his house. He probably is watching him at all times. You know it. You know that he probably has a wing that is like roped off. Antonio Brown probably hasn't even seen the kids at the house.
You're probably right, but I'm still going to go that Tom Brady has bigger balls for putting Antonio Brown in his house.
Oh, for sure.
What about you?
You're 100% right. In terms of no, I don't actually. A guy who is supposed to be an example for other people to live was having an affair with somebody at church. That's pretty bad. And how did he get caught? He got caught on iCloud. Guys, don't put stuff in the cloud. Don't put it. Once it's out on the internet, it's out there forever. Poof. It's out there.
Well, wasn't he still teaching them, teaching them what not to do?
Yeah, guys, don't do this or you get fired from your job, which he did. Indy had to move and sell his. I love how these pastors have they're worth $7 million. It's hilarious to me. He sold his $1.2 million home the day before the news came out. So he already knew this was coming. And here's the kicker. His wife got fired too. So there's probably something else going on, which is kind of wild. But I'm going to say he has bigger balls because he had the audacity to think that he could do something so ridiculous and get away with it. And just for that, I love it.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't love it, but you know what I'm saying.
We're not promoting what he did, but I mean, I think I mean, would I rather my kids hang around him or Antonio Brown? I'd rather my kids hang around him. If I had kids or if I had a family, or I wouldn't even bring Antonio Brown in here to watch football with me. I'd be a little worried.
No doubt. Well, guys, it's been real. I'm Jordan McKelley. This direction. That's Mitch Balla.
Right here.
Yeah. We'll see you for another episode.
See you when we see you.